Now we're going to talk about potential fight fixing with Issac Dulgarian. His purse is withheld and he was dropped from UFC for allegedly fight fixing. Now we're going to listen to someone from Tip Talk who broke this down, and then we're going to discuss it in greater detail. Although I'm not that big of a UFC guy, we know that Complex is, and I do want to talk about.
Has been cut by the UFC just a day after an incredibly suspicious loss where his fight is being investigated for match fixing. Dulgarian was a sizable favorite for all of fight week, and then just hours before his fight, several big money bets were placed on his opponent, Yadi Del Valle. And a lot of those bets were on a first round finish for Del Valle. The odds changed right there, and that's exactly what happened in this fight. Del Valle won by first round submission. And not only that, but Dulgarian used to train under James Cross, who was suspended for an illegal betting scheme. And UFC fighters, they were banned from training with him or working in his gym, but that only adds to the suspicious betting lines. And the official reason the UFC said they cut him was because of last night's loss, but I don't think Dulgarian's anywhere near one of the worst featherweights on the roster. You know, he's 7-2, 2-2 in the UFC. Both of his wins are by finish. He's 29 years old, right in the prime of his career. It's got to be due to the betting lines. And we'll have to see how this situation plays out, but the fact that it's being officially investigated for a betting scheme and match fixing is a very bad sign. You know, the James Cross situation a couple years ago was very messy. This could be even worse.
Ariel Helwani today on his show said that the UFC was made aware of the suspicious betting activity surrounding the Issac Dulgarian fight. Before the fight, officials reportedly spoke with Dulgarian's team prior to the bout and were assured everything was fine, which is why the fight proceeded as planned. Now, what's crazy is 24 hours after that, he was cut. Another huge thing to mention here is James Krause was once the coach of Issac Dulgarian. Almost 3 years ago to the date, there was a betting controversy with James Krause and one of his fighters, Derek Minner. Things got so bad that the UFC said if you are still associated with James Krause in any way, you will not be allowed to fight in the UFC. Suspicious betting patterns were noticed right before that fight as well. Ariel continued on his show today by saying that Dulgarian's controversy is not an isolated incident. He's spoken to multiple people who have either experienced or know of others who have been approached about their willingness to do something like this. Essentially, are you interested in throwing a fight for X amount of dollars? This is a massive issue for the UFC, and when you consider the questionable refereeing as of late, you can't help but wonder if there are integrity issues there as well. There's been a lot of really weird things that have happened with the refs over the past year to 2 years in the UFC. That's what he's referencing there. And tonight we learned that the Nevada State Athletic Commission withheld Issac Dulgarian's entire purse on Saturday due to the irregular betting activity surrounding his fight. No timeline as to when or even if they will release it. Investigation pending. The UFC released a statement today saying, like many professional sports organizations, UFC works with an independent betting integrity service to monitor wagering activities on our events. Our betting integrity partner, IC360, monitors wagering on every UFC event and is conducting a thorough review of the facts surrounding the Dulgarian fight. We take these allegations very seriously, and along with the health and safety of our fighters, nothing is more important than the integrity of our sport. One guy that's really been on top of all of this is Harry Mack. He reported before anybody that the FBI notified the UFC of abnormal action in line movement and gave them hours to pull the fight. They chose to continue, and from my perspective, are now complicit in fixing a fight. Last part's a huge accusation. However, we did learn today that the UFC did know about the abnormal betting activity and talked with Dulgarian's team. Now, we don't know if it was the FBI that notified them. Today, Harry said that he got new information that's going to make things much worse.
You know, you're seeing things out on the internet where like fighters are coming out and going, "Oh, I was approached. Really? Why didn't you tell us that? Or more importantly, why didn't you tell law enforcement that you were approached? Now you're saying that you were approached? It's like if somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I want you to rob a bank. I'm going to rob banks. Want to rob a bank with me?" And you don't do it. What, you're not gonna tell law enforcement? They're gonna be approached now by the FBI.
Harry Mack posted an update stating federal regulators have flagged over 100 UFC fights this year for abnormal betting patterns, including 2 additional fighters on last night's card. Ish is about to get very ugly. Still working to confirm, but it sounds like the feds are moving to audit Herzog's fights.
Man, this is actually huge. And you know what's so funny? It happened kind of under the radar, and UFC has these things called fight nights. They're like the equivalent of like Showbox back in the day. You know what I mean? Like it's just a fight card, couple fights, no champions, no nothing, just fights that happen, middle of the road guys. And I heard about it in the early mornings of Sunday afterwards. I heard rumblings, and since then it's blown up. But we've also seen recently the NBA had a huge scandal with Terry Rozier potentially doing the same kind of thing.
Chauncey Billups and a few other people.
And other people, was it Damon Jones, mixed into these kind of things. So we've seen the influx of sports betting in our society as it's become legalized nationwide. Now, is it impacting the sports that we're watching, and to what extent? So, like I said, I know this is a boxing channel, but we had to cover this. This is a huge one for the UFC. The UFC, just like any other sports league, has a ton of betting sponsors and things like that. And in the UFC, or more than any sport, almost, you can impact the effect, the outside, in the terms of the game yourself, right? And basically what he did is took a dive, right? He was a favorite to win the fight, and he lost. And there's a video which we'd have to probably show because the UFC will probably take it down. But in the fight, even the commentators like, why is he doing this, right? Like, what is going on here? He was getting choked, a rear naked choke. And the way you defend it, you're supposed to fight the hands. You're supposed to fight the other guy's hands to get the choke off of you. He wasn't doing that. He was just kind of like looking at his hands, not doing much of anything. So the commentator's like, what is he doing? This guy's a experienced fighter. Why is he not fighting the choke? Lo and behold, afterwards, first round finish, the odds were in. So he's a lower level fighter. So, one thing this does say about is like fighter pay, which is different because like in the NBA, Terry Rozier makes multiple millions a year. So why does he do that? I don't know. He might just be a gambling degenerate, right?
Same with Chauncey Billups.
Same with Chauncey Billups. I mean, you don't know, to do it for like a couple thousand is not worth it. But for a guy like Issac Dulgarian, who doesn't make much, we've talked about UFC fighter pay, that is changing money, right? If he can make 50 to 100,000, couple 100,000 on the back end from this thing, it's going to be way more than he's going to make from the actual UFC. So did he take a bribe or take some money and, try to fix it? But the other thing is this, these guys are not savvy at all. It can't be professional because all the money on a random fight, imagine like some random Showbox card, like the second or third fight below the main event, there's $1 million comes in on the betting lines. It's like, ding, 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 ding. Like, watch out for this. Like, the betting companies are going to see this coming from a mile away. It's incredible that these guys thought they could get away with it. And I don't know if they did.
And they refunded people too.
Yeah, they refunded people who made the bet on him winning because it was like, oh, this was a fix. So there was no way you could have won, right? So I think everybody got paid out, but I'm sure they're going to be investigating all the bettors who made those bets. The FBI, I'm almost positive, is in on this, and any other fighters who might be pulled in. But I think this is crazy. This is like a commentary on our sports in this day and age and sports betting. Are people going to start throwing games? I mean, we've seen in the NBA, UFC, what's next? Are people incentivized? Are we going to keep the integrity of sports, with all these betting companies? Should we go back to no more betting? Every ad you see on every game is either DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever. You know what I'm saying? At BetMGM. What are we going to do here? I don't know. What do you think?
I think that it all comes down to a Lil Wayne lyric. Be good or be good at it. Okay? So they clearly were not good at fixing this fight because, one, hours before the fight, millions of people started to lay down a bet on the actual outcome. Do you know how unlikely that is? You're talking about numbers like hitting the lottery. The odds are it's highly unlikely. If 1 million people hit the lottery, it's going to be suspicious, right? Powerball, the jackpot builds up, right? It builds up because no one hits it. And then the jackpot builds up to $1 million. And then all of a sudden, 200 people hit. Yeah. That would be suspicious as hell.
Dr. Umar.
Yeah. That would be extremely suspicious, right? So they planned this, and they couldn't have, I don't know, maybe 50 people hit. They had to have 1 million people hit.
I don't even think it's the number of people. I think it's the amount of money, like $1 million, or from one person, like one. I don't know, one or multiple people, but like a large sum of money.
Enough people to make it suspicious.
Yeah, enough. Yeah, very much so.
You couldn't
have every other fight has like a little bit of action, then this one's like huge, and especially a first round finish. The odds are even crazier for that. Like you're calling. That's a fix. The fix is in.
And I didn't watch the fight. I don't watch the sport, but I was reading the article, and like you said, they were saying like the way he fought was amateurish. So it's also, you're not even making it look good. It's just bad. But it goes to show that these fighters are underpaid. And you can make the argument that, oh, well, in the NBA, they get millions and they still had a scandal. But for me, the fact that a fighter would be willing to do this shows that they're underpaid for certain jobs, right? In the professional world. They run a credit check, they run a background check, they run all types of checks because what they want to make sure is that you're financially stable. So you don't have any incentive to try to use your position to gain money, to take bribes, or so whenever you're trying to get certain positions, they look into that. They look at your credit score, they look at your debt to income, all types of stuff to make sure that you're not someone who's going to try to use your position to gain money. And in this, it looks like it's sad that this fighter would be involved with that. But then again, he's involved with the guy who was busted doing this, and he was training in his gym. Right. It's the whole nine, right? But it also reminds me of like the PEDs and the guys who were involved with the guys who were busted for doing PEDs. Although, you know, Victor Conti has just passed. Rest in peace to Victor Conti. But the point I'm making is there's always been shady business around boxing. But again, like I said, be good or be good at it. If those guys are cheating, they're not getting busted. So hey, what can I say about it? In the end, this guy got busted. Fight fixing. So my thing now is, how prevalent is this? How often does it happen? And I won't name names, but there was this one fight. It was a major fight. It was a big fight. It was actually a crossover fight. And I felt like the boxer in this fight carried the MMA fighter in this fight to like the 9th round. And then the boxer knocked the MMA fighter out in the 9th round. And it looked like the boxer was inspired to knock the MMA fighter out in the 9th round. And I would bet, like, I felt like this fighter probably bet that he was going to knock this MMA fighter out in the 9th round. So does that happen? You know, I do think that if you peel back the layers and you actually look into it, like athletes have like cousins, uncles, and people who lay down bets on games probably for them, most likely. But I mean, again, be good or be good at it. This is an example where they were horrible at it, and my man got dropped for losing the fight. So, let us know what you think in the comment section. Do you think that this fight was fixed, or do you think people were being too hard on a man? The moment was just too big, and he forgot how to fight. Catering, we're out. Peace.
Peace.